So in psychology, motivation is often camped in one of two categories. Either you have an approach motivation or you have an avoid motivation. And if you have an approach motivation, what that means is that you have clear goals. It means you're focused on the rewards or the outcomes you want, and you're willing to take action. You're willing to take risks in order to face those rewards. Whereas if you're an avoid-oriented person, what that means is that you're more focused on the risks. So a lot of this has to do with focus. Are you focused on the outcomes and the rewards you want, or are you focused on the risks involved in potentially getting those rewards, or the risks of even staying still? An approach-oriented person, in large part, wants to advance their current position. We all have a current self, and we're in a position. And so if you're an avoid-oriented person, what that means is that you're trying to avoid failure. There's a huge difference between trying to avoid failure or avoid losing and trying to win. If you're an approach-oriented person, you're trying to win. You're trying to make a better result. You're trying to move forward, and you're willing to risk your current position in order to move forward. So an approach orientation means you do have a clear goal, a clear vision of your future self, and you're willing to stake your current self on your future self. You're willing to take risks. You're willing to put things at odds. You're willing to potentially get rid of your current self and your current belief system and your current perspectives in order to find out what's next. And people who are avoid-oriented are overly conservative about taking risks. If you are avoiding the future, you are also likely avoiding the past. And if you're avoiding the past, what that means is that you have a lot of unclear memories. You've got a disorganized past, as they would say, an untransformed past. In order to turn any form of trauma into post-traumatic growth or transformation, you have to be approach-oriented towards your own past. In psychology, they call that deliberate rumination, where you focus on an event, best if you do it with a journal. Think about your hardest moment, and then turn that event into lessons and transformation. Turn it into gains, as me and Dan would say, the gain or the gap. If you're in the gap about your past, you're avoiding it, you're wishing it was something else. The gap is a mindset where you measure what is against what it ideally should have been. And if you measure yourself against ideals, you're always going to be in a gap. And that's true of your past, it's true of your future, it's true of your current self. And so if you're avoiding your past is going to keep triggering and keep hitting you. If you're avoiding your future, what that means is you're not taking action, you're caught in paralysis by analysis, or you're playing too safe. Now, there is one powerful principle, there's multiple principles for becoming more approach-oriented as a person. One is obviously clarify your future self. Future self is so exciting. The next one is radical imperfect action. So one of my favorite principles is a Dan Sullivan concept called the 80% rule. And what the 80% rule is all about is that 80% gets results while 100% is still thinking about it. So what that means is this video that I'm filming right now is not a 100% video. I could be using my nicer camera and things like that. I could have spent way more time better organizing my thoughts. Or I could just make the 80% version of the video, which for you, the viewer, is probably good enough. It's 100%. So if I make 80%, that means it's out getting results. It means you're actually watching it. If I'm at 100%, that means I'm still trying to perfect it. Perfectionism is the thief of progress. Perfectionism means you're still thinking about it. 100% means you're still thinking about it. So if you're willing to take a lot of action and move forward, then guess what happens? You start getting small wins. Guess what happens when you get small wins? You start to build confidence. Guess what happens when you start to build confidence? You start to get motivation. Motivation is the byproduct of confidence. Confidence is the byproduct of action and getting small wins or getting results, because then you start to believe more and more that what you're doing is possible. So if you want to be an approach-oriented person, how you do anything is how you do everything. Have clear goals, take imperfect action forward, be willing to adjust your aims as you get more information. Also, one other super important thing is to not be overly committed to your current self. Your current self is so temporary. Your current position is so temporary. And so don't overly commit to your current self. Be willing to take action. Be willing to take risks for your future self. Be willing to take risks to better position your future self. Now, that doesn't mean you overly risk and be crazy. It just means you take very smart, calculated risks regularly, And then you know that on the other side of that risk, you're going to be able to figure it out. That's a big part of confidence. That's a big part of commitment, is that whatever happens, you know you can figure it out. You can become an approach-oriented person. You have to be an approach-oriented person if you're going to advance forward, if you're going to continually adapt, adjust, learn. You've got to be learning in order to move forward. If you're an avoid-oriented person, not only are you avoiding your future, you're avoiding your past, you're avoiding hard conversations. There's a great quote from Tim Ferriss. He said that basically a person's success in life, it comes down to the awkward conversations they're willing to have. The extent to which you're willing to be approach-oriented is going to be the extent to which you're going to have peak experiences. Peak experiences happen by being intentional. Peak experiences happen outside your comfort zone where things are a little less predictable. In neuroscience, you have prediction errors when you're trying something new. Courage is the willingness to try something that could fail. And so prediction errors mean that your view of the world just transformed, and now you have a better model of the world. Being approach-oriented is how you transform your model. It's how you transform yourself. It's how you grow. It's how you eventually get masterful and get results. And you have no ego. You're not so tied to the current results because you know your future self is going to get better results. Hope that helps. Please like this video if it helped. Please subscribe to the channel, and have an amazing day.